I don't think there's one person in the world I hate more than Jo Frost. And if you don't know who she is, you may be familiar with the program Super Nanny. She's often depicted as some kind of genius of childcare, and this means everything she says, no matter how fucking stupid it is considered fact among her following. Nothing expresses her blatant ignorance more than an experiment she did with video games. In this experiment, she had two groups of 12-year-old boys. One group plays a football game, while the other group plays a war game. After they played the video games for 20 minutes, they're asked to watch violent footage from the news. During the whole experiment, the boys' heart rates are monitored. Already one major problem can be spotted with this experiment. There's no fucking control group. In any experiment, you'll have a control group to act as a comparison later in the experiment. In the case of this experiment, it would be a group that did nothing for 20 minutes before they watched the footage. So why don't we see the result of the first part of the test?
Everyone's heart rate goes up just playing the game. Yeah. Playing the game is exciting. And that's true for a violent game or a non-violent game.
They blatantly forget that the speed of video games comes into play here. Your heart rate's going to go up depending on if you need quick reactions or not. That's why the group playing the slower paced football game have a slower heart rate. Now let's see what happens when these sick-minded people introduce the 12-year-olds to violent footage.
Jo wants to see if the violent gamers react to the footage in the same way as the non-violent gamers. Outwardly, all the boys seem pretty unfazed by the footage. But what's happening on the inside?
What are we seeing when we're looking at the heart rates here?
In general, the group that watch the violent video do seem to have low heart rates at the moment.
The ones that are watching the violent?
The lowest ones with the violent one.
The boys' heart rates reveal their different responses. Normally, when you see real-life violence, your heart rate goes up. But if you're desensitized, your heart rate stays the same.
So we're seeing exactly what we would have expected to see, that if they've been witnessing a lot of violent acts, that then when they see new ones, even though they're real world,
desensitized.
That's exactly what we're seeing here.
If they were desensitized, then the violent footage would cause their heart rate to go down, not up. They also fail to mention anything about the body's natural defense system. Viewing the footage would tell your body it's somehow in danger, and when your body feels like it's in danger, it prepares itself to run for long distances. This causes your heart rate to go up. This is also where a control group would become handy in the experiment.
In response to watching the news footage, the heart rates of the boys who played the non-violent football game increased to an average of 99 beats per minute. But the boys who played the violent war game showed no reaction.
The bar graph they just showed us is one of the most exaggerated I've ever seen. And not to mention there's only a difference of 11 between the two. This is what 11 BPM sounds like. It goes without saying that the difference between the two is grossly exaggerated. Now let's watch as they try and prove that violent video games decrease your empathy.
Each boy will be asked a series of questions. During the interview, Doug will intentionally knock a cup of pens over to see how the players respond. Will the violent players react in the same way as the non-violent players? The first candidate for interview is one of the non-violent football gamers.
I'm Doug. Have a seat. Just have a couple of questions for you right now, and then we might talk to you again a little bit later on. But do you play games at your home?
Yeah.
Yeah? What game systems do you have?
Just PS2.
And what would you say are your 3 favorite games? Sure.
Doug's theory is that the non-violent gamers will help, but the violent gamers won't.
Not only is this a stupid fucking test, but it's also extremely flawed. In the first test, he reacts almost instantly to the pens being knocked over onto the floor and instantly goes down to pick them up. The 12-year-old realizes the test won't continue until the pens are picked up, so he decides to help. While in the violent video gamer test, he knocks over the pens and ignores them completely. What this would imply to the 12-year-old is that the test is more important than the pens. Not to mention that you could do this test with someone who's run a marathon and get a similar result to the violent video gamers. Does that mean that marathons lower your empathy? In closing, the scientific experiment you've just watched was one purposely generated to create the result that they wanted, and by that definition, this is not real science, it's fucking retarded.